Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Dakota, the bad boy I've been. I wanted to put together this message to address some concerns that have come up. I've been a big believer in sharing my story, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the downright strange. And many who've seen me in action can argue in my favor that, yeah, I'm just strange. So, last night a video went out on our dear friend Danny Henderson's channel, and there's been a bit of concern concerning the fact that I had in my possession a Ouija board. We're going to confront everything right now. Firstly, for those of you who've been asking, what's my logic? Actually trying to have a conversation, understand another person's point of view. I commend you. It seems like this day and age with social media, a lot of people tend to think that a brief snippet they might see of someone's life on YouTube describes their whole story, and therefore that person is evil. Or a minor argument, disagreement is changed that I'm Satan's worshiper. For a time that is described as the age of information, I think we're still technically considered that as far as civilization-wise. It probably would change pretty soon with everything that's going on. For a bunch of people who claim to be in search of the truth, a lot of individuals are starting to act like the politicians fucking up the place. And yeah, in the case of Ouija boards, some weird shit's happened. But I'm going to tell you a little something about me right now, okay? I don't like going off of he said, she said. Because again, for a bunch of people who try to say that they're all about understanding the truth, understand what really happens, why things happen the way they are, we tend to make a lot of presumptions. We tend to make a lot of accusations. And let's face it, some of us could probably do a lot better in careers surrounding politics because of this behavior. And there's been individuals who seemed doubtful about my thought process in the live chat that only offers about 200 characters per message. And no, I'm not attacking you. I'm not. I would like to hear your story a little more later on, but that's up to you. I've always tried to, one, keep my sanity in trying to process everything, and two, try to find some way to back up by known scientific methods back that something has happened. There's even been incidents where I've been in a car accident, took a pickup truck going 60 miles an hour right to the head, almost lost my foot in that crash because of how the frame of the car started bending in on me. Still have this car. But for those of you who are trying to say, oh, Dakota's brain dead, he just admitted it. No. I went to the hospital right away. They took me by ambulance. Figured better safe than sorry. And they put me through an MRI. They didn't find anything. Now, granted, the hospital around here doesn't exactly have the best reputation. It's nicknamed Tragic for a reason, but that's a whole other tirade. And there's some of you that who follow the channel for a while may have heard comments that I made about my mother throwing me to the ceiling as a baby. This is also true. Allegedly. This was a story told to me by my grandparents, and for those of you who just assume my mother's trying to be cruel, no. It's a situation of low ceilings, young mother, baby throwing up on her, and mother going, ah! Like, clearly I'm okay. I'm still here. 27 years old, still here. So you can easily probably write this off as a dumbass kid messing around. In my experience, when it comes to Ouija boards, anytime something negative truly seemed to be attached to the board itself. From what I was able to gather about the case itself, this is one of those things, you gotta go by a case-by-case situation. The case itself, there were things already going on in the house, and the board just became a placebo, a catalyst, whatever you want to use, term you want to use. Sometimes it was the fact that users were probably not in the best mental conditions, not mental disorder. There's some people who made that assumption when I mentioned this. And what I mean by mental condition is that, okay, maybe they were just stressed out, teenagers freaking out about bullies and homework and parents griping on them. Maybe they were depressed about a breakup, or maybe it was a legitimate situation where these kids probably should be attending some sort of counseling because of abuse at home, because of simple things like that. Or maybe the house already had some sort of location activity going on, and whatever was there decided to simply take advantage of the moment. You can call them tricksters, demons. It all falls under one roof. The only thing that mattered is that clearly something had happened. Something about messing around with the board made it worse. Opened the door. Much like how little ghost box could open the door. Much like how dowsing pendulums, EVP recorders, the intention that you're trying to communicate with someone from another realm, let's go with that term, that alone can set off a portal. For those of you who see my tapestry right there, little designs like that can be used as portals. Usually nothing negative with something like that, but hey. There's also been alleged cases where angels were the ones raising hell, not demons. You never fucking know. As I say, it's the 2020s. The number of impossible things that have been happening and have been proven to be happening should be proof enough alone that we do not know as much as we think we do, and that we have a lot to learn, and there's a lot of misconceptions that we need to get rid of. And there's some of you that go, oh, Dakota, you don't use those boards, you're going to be letting the devil in. Yeah, there's a case that you should probably be aware of before you make that assumption. You want to know my stance on what truly lets the devil in? And speaking as devil as in personification of evil. Attacking people on social media, that can let devils in. Bullying others. Utilizing one's religion as an excuse to abuse others. The story with the board in particular I showed, there was only one instance it was ever used. And it was involving a young girl who was told that she could not come home by her own mother because she tried to speak out about her stepfather abusing her sexually, physically. This young girl even reached out a couple of times to family members, worried that she was reaching out because she was wanting to take her own life in order to get away. This is a genuine true story. And her mother would just up and put her into a mental asylum. Now this young girl had also started to self-harm, messed around with drugs, been sexually active. All known factors to bring out negative activity. She's okay now. She's doing better. She's doing well enough in school. She's actually racking up some college credits and wants to be an OBGYN. I've been keeping tabs on her because that was a case I was personally involved. And nothing directly happened with that young lady involving the board. The only thing that happened, which is true, was that the board started to spell out the stepfather's name, then spelled out the word asshole. And as I said, I was not physically there to give fair judgment on this individual. I don't know to the extent of what all has happened. Where that family lives is about 4 hours drive from me, and when we tried going out there one Christmas, there was such a bad enough snowstorm, there was at least 3, maybe 4 semis that flipped. By all accounts, we were able to find out later that all the drivers were okay, aside from needing a change of pants. But yeah, it made it very difficult to reach out to these kids. And she had 2 older brothers as well. The one thing I knew for certain was that these kids did not start trying to make attempts on their own life until that man was around. God's honest truth. And I think that's a little bit more concerning than a Ouija board. And that's always been my thought process. And that is the reason why I have those thoughts. See, I try to be fairly honest. If I'm not 100% sure about certain things I say, I'll admit it. Doesn't stop some of you from nitpicking and trying to stir up arguments between me and people who I greatly respect and admire. I'm going to get to that here in a second. Yes, Ouija boards can be dangerous when mishandled. Anything can be dangerous when mishandled. I don't know about some of you, but some of these younger kids leaving driver's ed and crashing several times is a little concerning. I've only crashed twice when I was behind the vehicle, and it's only the incident I mentioned earlier about the pickup truck that I was found at fault. But again, it is what it is. It happened. Everybody was able to walk away. Bumps, bruises, scrapes and cuts, but everybody was able to walk away. And we go to move on. Because that's all you can do in life. Move on. Now, I will ask this as a genuine curiosity. Anybody else try out those Jesus Ouija boards? Go on Amazon to see what I'm talking about. Somebody made a Ouija board with the picture of Jesus. It's always been my thought process that we fuel the power sacred items have, haunted objects have. We fuel it with our own belief. On a psychology point of level, we psych ourselves out to any weird movement could be misconstrued as a haunting as well. But on a parapsychology note, that psyching oneself out can sometimes manifest tulpas, thought forms, and take form. Read about the number of cases where authors have written out storylines and characters that they fully believe came to life. I believe there was one writer, he was our sketch artist for Planet of the Apes comic books. I didn't even know that they had Planet of the Apes comics, but this is the alleged story. He writes that one day he was at home sketching out a scene that was basically depicted a gorilla holding this human woman hostage. And as he's drawing out this scene, he hears his wife start screaming in the other room. Not, honey, dinner's ready. No, as in, honey, get your ass in here. Something's happening. This is alleged. This story is alleged. I don't know the truth behind it, but it's something that should be considered. Because as the man rushes to where his wife was to find out what the heck is going on, only to find out somebody had broken into their home and was holding his wife hostage. They're okay now, my understanding, but once he had time to kind of sit down and process the event, he started to realize the event played out exactly how he drawn in the comic. Psychic vision or unintended manifestation? Can you give me an answer? Here's another for you. Here's one for the Keanu Reeves fans. You ever seen the movie Constantine? I like that movie. Some of you may know Constantine was actually based on another comic book character by DC Comics, well known for mental health issues. The version Keanu played wasn't really based on the comic, but that's a side point. The original author of the Constantine books, Alan Moore, he was an occultist, and he based several aspects about the original version of John Constantine he created on real occult practices. And several others on the writing team researched this type of stuff in order to make themselves more familiar. Well, guess what? Allegedly, the version of John Constantine they created in those comic books came to life and actually sat down and had a conversation with him while in London. And several members of that writing team swear up and down that they know they can't prove it, but it happened. So again, is that some sort of thought form, or was it like a psychic vision of another world, of an alternate reality? You tell me. Keeping track of the number of contradictions when it comes to this type of stuff gets to be difficult, and that's not even bringing in the aliens. That is my logic. That is where I stand on that. If you don't like it, all right, share your story. I'm genuinely curious. Let's use this opportunity instead of trying to point fingers and say, oh, he's an asshole, oh, he's an asshole, oh, he did this, oh, he did this. Let's actually sit down and have a fucking conversation. But I will say this. I do owe an apology. Someone who I greatly respect and admire reached out to me because someone mentioned, and I have a few ideas on who that possibly could be, but we're not going to go into that now. Someone reached out concerned about some of the details I've been sharing with some of my ET experiences. And they nitpick certain details to try to point out that I may have been potentially compromised. And this individual messaged me conveniently within minutes as I got home from work. That was a little spooky, but and they were genuinely concerned. And I didn't lie. I told them, yes, I did say these things. I explained what brought me to those conclusions. Because again, this is someone who I greatly respect and admire and trust. If she goes to approach me that she feels something's up, I'm going to listen. And she is one of the few people I will do that for. Because I honestly do not trust 90% of people that come about this. Now granted, a good majority of them are literally legitimately confused about how to process certain things. And conversations need to sit down and happen in order to try to figure this stuff out. And I made sure to apologize to her right away. Whether or not it was some trickster or negative being that influenced why I had those interpretations of certain events, it's hard to say. When I got my start in the paranormal, it was not under the best mental health. Roughly when I got my start officially going out and taking cases was when I found out my father had been sexually abusing one of my sisters. They were put into foster care. And this was honestly my logic, was that I needed something to get my mind off of this situation. Because it broke my heart that I could not do anything about it. And again, that's why my stance always comes from the fact that you need to have the best mental health. And maybe because that was the state of mind I was in when I got started, that's why certain negative cases that a lot of you are bothered by me sharing have happened. That's up for speculation. And I'm willing to admit that. But I'm also not above coming up and saying I fucked up. I misinterpreted something. Some of you may have brought up the implications that I've made that I've been in recent communication with Orhan. The most recent, maybe more definite one, was when that weird voice popped up during the Danny Henderson interview on the Bald and Bonkers show. That's about it. There have been times where I was upstairs and I passed someone that looked like him, but it would also look like he was a man focused on something and I didn't want to be a bother. There's been several times, god damn, I really need to get a drink. There's also been several times where certain things have been so confusing that I've wanted to reach out to the person who reached out to me personally, just to try to figure out what the hell is going on. My motivation has always been to try to understand why certain things are happening. And as well as the encounters with you, apparently that was not the case. I just remembered seeing somebody that fit that description. And you also got to remember, when it comes to me, I grew up around law enforcement and I worked a couple years as a bounty hunter. That mentality tends to stay with you. So if you see someone that kind of matches the description of someone you're looking for, you're going to start thinking that that person is that person. That is why I said those things. It was not my intention to mislead anybody. It was not anybody to try to discredit this person that reached out concerned. And I addressed it right then and there. It's like, yes, I did say these things. It was not my intention. This is why I said those things. And she pointed out maybe it had something to do with the Ouija board. Because again, because this is someone I love, trust, admire, and greatly respect. So next time any of you assholes want to doubt who I am, remember this. This is who I am. And yeah, I've gotten a few details mixed up. I am man enough to admit that. Are you? This is not to spread any hate. This is to tell you, get your facts straight before you start judging somebody. And if you got a problem with me, message me. Don't start stirring up crap. There's a quote I heard, and I think it comes from Christian Bale, and I think describes the situation perfectly. If you have a problem with me, text me. And if you don't have my number, you don't know me well enough to have a problem with me. And for those who were hoping to cause some disconnect, the admiration and respect I have for this person just became a hell of a lot more solidified. Remember that.